Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Eli Worrell. I'm one of our client support specialists over here at Onyx Maps, helping specifically with our Onyx for Business customers. I'm going to give it a few minutes here, let everybody kind of get in, get joined. Just so you know, you don't have to worry about your cameras being on; those are turned off automatically for you, and everybody is already on mute, so you're not going to be able to change that. So don't worry about accidentally getting in, making a little bit of noise. That's all been turned off. So, all right, looks like we're getting some folks going here. Um, all right, so what we're going to be going over today is just kind of how to use Onyx Maps in a business capacity. This is going to go over things like our group location sharing. We're going to have our admin console here to show you. We're going to show you a little bit about how you can set up and use the tools to help you out when you're out in the field. So, we're going to give it just a couple more minutes here. Just make sure everybody gets in that wants to join, and then we'll get going. All right. Well, let me share my screen and we'll let you guys start going. All right. First thing that we're going to go over here, this is just our general Onyx maps. So this is the Onyx Hunt app. This is what most folks end up using. And what we're going to see is that this is going to be our web map version of it. Now, we also have the mobile app for your phone. You're going to be able to log into 3 devices per user. So that is going to include a phone, a tablet, and the web. What's really nice is all of your content is going to share across automatically. So you don't have to worry about if I add a waypoint on my phone, am I going to be able to view it on my computer or am I going to need to share some stuff over? That's all going to share out automatically. So what's really nice is it keeps it all together without you needing to do any extra manual work. All right. So what you're seeing here is going to be our topo view. You're going to notice that we have a few different types of imagery that you can view with your map. We have a topo view, a hybrid view, and a satellite view. You can switch between the three by going to the base maps. So if you're on the web map, it's going to be where it says the SAT2D on the bottom right side of your screen, and it's going to be the same if you're on mobile app. You'll just click where it says SAT2D, go in, and you'll be able to see all of the different options that we have. With that, we have our most what everybody uses is our satellite view in a 2D fashion. That is going to let you see it just like you would any sort of map, where you can zoom in, see what's on the ground, and kind of get a good idea of what you might be going into. With that, you can also switch it around to where you have our recent imagery available. So under the satellite, you're going to be able to turn on a recent imagery. This is going to be a 2 week old image that you can scroll back in time with. So I'm up here in Missoula. So we'll just kind of take a look at what might have been changing around. And when you're going in, you'll be able to see that, hey, this road is really clear. It looks pretty close. But if we went back to mid-January, we're going to see that there's some snow on the mountains. So you'll be able to see kind of those major changes as it goes through, just scrolling back, see when stuff's opened up. Now you'll notice that the resolution isn't going to be quite as clear with the recent imagery as it would be with our regular satellite imagery. That is by design. It's just how frequently they have to take those photos. It's just not going to be quite as clear as if they can get a really steady photograph. You'll also see if you are not in the Mountain West, if you're in more of our Midwest or the East Coast, we have our recent imagery available. Let me get to a good spot to show you. So if you're in one of these areas that is more densely wooded and has a lot more trees, that when the leaves fall off, you can see a lot more. This really helps you get a good idea of what is underneath that tree canopy so that you can see a little bit more on that satellite image than you could just on a regular imagery. This really helps out more of the East Coast, but if you're out in the West, we don't have that available. Your best option is going to be to use the recent imagery. Something else that is new in our imageries is going to be our LiDAR. So when you are wanting to use LiDAR, what I like to say is it's going to show you everything that is underneath those trees and everything that you can't see from just a regular image. So when we turn this on, you'll notice that all of a sudden you're able to see these ridges really well. You can see where some cliff faces are, and you can get a really good sense of what is going to be that actual ground that you're walking up into. So when we had that regular satellite imagery on, that looks pretty flat. Doesn't look like a whole lot, but with the LiDAR imagery, you can see, hey, there's actually some pretty good rocks there, just a little bit of cliff faces. So that might not be as easy to walk into as I wanted to hope it was. With that, all of these different imagery types are able to be used in our 3D as well. So you can see how powerful this would be if you're using both LiDAR and the 3D, where if you're zooming in, you can have a really good sense of, how you can get into a place. So if you're using this in a field capacity, you're wanting to get into a different work area that you might not be in before, you can go through, you can see, hey, what is going to be the easiest routes up here, as well as what might be on the ground. If you're using this for forestry, you can get a good sense of where you might be able to get machines into. Search and rescue, what's the easiest path into where somebody's last location was. It's also going to show you a little bit more about what is actually here. So I like to use it for these creek bottoms. So if I'm, running machine, if I'm going a little bit more off-road, I can see, hey, there's actually some wetland areas here. There's some little cracks in the ground versus if I was just using the regular satellite imagery. You're not really able to see that stuff. You're not able to see where those creeks might be flowing. So just gives you a little bit more about a true what's on the ground fashion. One other thing that really helps out with that kind of understanding what's underneath is our 3D elevation exaggeration. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. I'm going to turn this on. You'll see where it does change what I'm looking at a little bit. So I need to just zoom back in. But I can see exactly where some of these cliff faces are coming in. So I know now that, hey, there's a really good steep cliff face here. Maybe I don't want to walk there. I can walk through over here. Um, just a little bit more clear of a picture about what might be on the ground there. And again, that's just this 3D elevation exaggeration. If you're on your phone, that is going to show up in a bar, kind of where this plus and minus would be. So you can turn that up and down there. All right. So now that we kind of got our imagery figured out, I know what's on the ground. I have a good sense of, what I'm going to be looking at. We can also adjust the map even further by using our map layers. With the map layers, we have over 100 different layers that you can turn on and off, but there's a few that are going to be more work specific than the other ones. The big one is going to be how you can view the private land. Private land is one of the most important things that we have to offer in OnX. It's going to show you all the landowner names as well as the tax address so that you can kind of get a good sense of where some folks are. This is really important for law enforcement, any sort of agriculture, just so you know where those property boundaries are and where a house might be. You can turn that on and off in the map layers, and that is just going to be this private land button at the top, where you can turn that on and off. You can see where these red boundaries are showing up, and I can get those to turn off and back on. Now you'll notice with our private land boundaries, you'll be able to view more the further in that you zoom. So if I'm at a high level view, I'm not able to see all of those different property lines, but if I just keep zooming in, I'm going to see more and more. This just helps with the map loading so that you're not getting your app to slow down and bog down just by trying to load all of that content at once. So if you know a general sense of where somebody is, just keep zooming and those property boundaries are going to start showing up. We'll go over a little bit more about those property boundaries a little bit later, but a few other important layers to note are going to be that government lands layer, where you can see where all of those public land boundaries are going to be. When you're looking at a large swath of forest, sometimes it does block a little bit of the imagery. So turning off that GovLands layer just lets you get a better picture about what you're actually seeing versus if it's on, it can look a little bit cloudier. It does clear up when you zoom in, but if you're wanting to see something at a high level view, you can just turn that off and back on. You can see here if you're using an onX for Business license, you'll have access to all 50 states, plus Canada. So when you're going through, if you need to turn on a different state, or if you're just not seeing something show up that you think should, just scroll down to where you have this full list and turn it on. It disappears and goes to the top, but that'll make sure that all of your state layers are turned on. You can then go through here and you can view those different buckets. So for Montana, we have 7 different types of layers. That is going to include our hunting districts. When you're using this in more of a work capacity, you might not want these big, thick green boundaries to show up. So you can just go through and you can turn that off just to make sure you're cleaning up the map so you're only viewing what you want to. All right. Next thing that we'll go over is just our current conditions layers. This is going to give you a better sense of what is on the ground when you're going in there. First one we have turned on is our active wildfire layer. This is going to include any any fires that we have that are active, including prescription burns. And then we also include those boundaries if they are available. So for this prescribed burn, it's not available yet. It's likely just very small. But you can see here where if it was active, you can see where those boundaries are going to be. We even show the kind of heat map so you can see where the fire is going to be burning too. Just to give you a little bit more of an idea of where these fires are moving, and where the boundaries are that day. The next one under the current conditions is going to be the cell coverage layer that folks have found very useful. This lets you kind of plan ahead. onX is able to be used online and offline, but you need to make sure that you're downloading an offline map first. This just helps you get a sense of where that is going to be the most necessary. So if we have that cell coverage layer turned on, it is going to tell you kind of where that service is going to be. You're going to be able to turn on the different types of, or the 3 different carriers that we offer. So the Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Now you'll see where it is more of a dark red. That is going to be the better cell service versus if it's a little bit lighter. So you can actually go through and it'll tell you if it's 4G or 5G. So if I'm going into this area, I can expect to have 5G service. This is really helpful when you're pre-planning to make sure you're downloading your offline maps, but also if you are out in the field and you're needing to make a call, you can kind of get a sense of where you would get that cell service at. So if I was in this area, I would not want to be there. I could jump over to this hill and likely get service. You can turn that on and off. You'll see as I'm turning these layers on and off, they all show up under my recent layers. That just lets you get a good sense. If you turn something on and you kind of forgot about it and you're like, why is my map not looking the way I'm used to? You can just go to the recent layers, turn some stuff off. The next is going to be our roads, trails, and rec layers. You'll see that I have these purple lines showing up. These are going to be our motorized roads and trails. You can find that by going down to where it says roads, trails, and recs and making sure that the motorized roads and trails is turned on. This is going to give you very detailed off-roading type of information. So if I click on this purple line, I can see what the road name is, what the road ID would be, as well as what it's likely accessible by. Just making sure that I'm bringing the right tools for the job. If we are going into an area and we need to get there quick, I want to make sure if I need an ATV that I'm bringing it with me. This lets you just plan ahead and get a good sense, as well as giving you open and closed dates and management areas. So you'll see there's a few differences between a solid purple line and a kind of hash marked line like this. This is going to be more of our trails. So this is going to include um, what it is actually open for. So you can see this one's only for ATVs and dirt bikes. So if I'm going through, that's when the open and closed dates would be for that particular trail. There is another type here that I'll show you, and that is going to be more of a hashed mark line. So that you just know that it's going to be a more of a just a trail that it's going to be only accessible by certain vehicles rather than by everything. These more solid purple lines, that's going to be more of your major dirt roads versus any sort of hash mark line is going to be more of a trail. All right. If you would like, you can also turn on and off a couple of different layers in our trees, crops, and soil. The historic wildfire is the most popular in this bucket. That is just going to show you where any sort of fire that might have happened would have, where the boundaries would have been, as well as the date and the name. When you turn those off, it just clears up your map a little bit. You can also see that we have a soil capability as well as a U.S. crop distribution. These are all going to be pulled in from the USDA, where it's going to give you all of the info that we would have to offer on that. So if we had the crop distribution turned on, we can see where some of these different crops might have been planted. So we could turn on a few different ones just to see what's in there. So we ended up getting to some corn. And you can see what that field might have been. This is all from the year previous, so you do need to have a little bit of knowledge ahead of time, but it is going to give you that data, as well as our soil capability is going to show up as certain zoom levels. And when you click on it, it'll get and scroll down, it'll tell you what the soil classification is and what the irrigation capability is. Just a few extra layers that you can turn on there if you are needing that. All right, I'm going to take a quick break here, just kind of see what might be going on. I forgot to mention as well, if you are looking, if you have any questions as I'm going over everything, if I'm going a little bit too fast, need something repeated, please drop it in the Q&A. That can be found by going to where it says more and then to Q&A. We have our team here that's happy to help answer those questions for you. And if I can slow down and answer something live, I'm happy to do that as well. All right. So now that we got the map the way that we're wanting it to look, with our layers and our different imagery types, we'll want to start adding some content to it. So you'll see here that I have a ton of different stuff marked out. We have a lot of different waypoints, a lot of different things that you can do. That is going to include waypoints, tracks, lines, and areas are going to be the most common. And then our new feature is going to be our route builder. So the most important thing that you can add on onX, in my opinion, is going to be a waypoint. This is where you can mark locations for future reference. So when you're hitting that, there's going to be three different ways that you can add a waypoint on the computer. First is going to be just by clicking on a spot on the map. When you click on a spot, you'll see that it's going to show up. It'll pull up a um, full list here. Then you can just hit that add waypoint at the bottom. With those waypoints, you can change the waypoint name to be whatever you would like it to be. We'll save that as a parking area. And once you get that to show up, you'll see that we can also turn on the waypoint names so that you can have a quick reference when you're going back to it. So once we get that waypoint added, there's a few different things that we'll want to be able to do. First is going to be to add them to a folder. You'll see that if I wanted to share a lot of content or just help organize all of my data, so you can see here where I have a ton of different stuff on the map. I might not want to share that out with my entire team. I might want to keep a little bit of it kind of in reserve. So I can then create these folders to actually get into a place that it is more organized as well as able to share out. So we'll just create a new test folder. And you'll see here, the way I did that was I went to where it says My Content, scroll down to where it says New Folder, and then it'll just ask you for a folder name. This is the same on a phone as well as the computer. And then once I get that added, I'll be able to go in to where I just had this new waypoint, hit add content, and then I can just select it from the list here. I can also just click on it as well, but that'll be how we can add a waypoint to a folder. So if we wanted to go over a little bit more of a real world situation, we'll start from our Onyx office building here. And if we're wanting to go through this, we'll say that this is going to be a response to well, yeah, we'll go over a different telephone line. So when we're starting here, we have our starting point. I'm going to choose that as our Onyx building. I'm going to add a new waypoint in by clicking the waypoint button on the top right-hand corner, just to mark where my starting parking lot would be. So we'll mark that down. And we'll add this all to a folder here in a little bit. So I know where my starting point is, and then we're going to choose a point over here that we want to get to. So if this is a search and rescue response or just a different work area, I will want to make sure I just mark where that is. So I'll mark that here. So to get from my starting point to my ending point, I'll need to make sure that I have the correct route that I need to go into it. So to use that, I'll use a build route feature. So I'll just click up here, and that's on the top right-hand corner of my screen. If you're on your phone and you're trying to follow along, you can go down to where it says Tools on the bottom center part of your screen, and then hit Route Builder. Once you click that, you just click the starting point. So that'll be the first dot. And you'll see here where this red line is just going to want to start drawing for me. So I know generally how to get out to that area. So we'll start by driving down some main roads. And you can zoom out, keep an idea of where you're actually going to make sure that you're getting there in the most effective way. So I'm going to start taking some routes down over here. And you'll see if I'm just trying to draw this right away, it's going to start pulling it and it might not go exactly the way I wanted it to. To stop that, all you need to do is just add a few extra dot or a few extra clicks inside. So if I save this location, I know that I need to make this particular turn. I'll want to make sure that I click a point there so that it's not going to try to draw me away from that spot. If it's something where I'm just wanting to get in a quick view, you can zoom out and just get a quick draw. All right, so we're getting a little bit closer here. And I know that I want to, it's starting to take me through a few different roads. I know that I want to take this one. So I'm just going to drop another point. Then we're going to take this trail through here and get us all the way into our point. So you can see where I can get really close with that line. So now I have a starting point, an ending point, and my route to get between the two. Once I'm here, I notice that my ending point's actually a little bit further. So I need to switch it up so that I know that I need to start walking. So I'll switch over to the point draw tool. And I know that we marked a spot in here, and I can just kind of draw my exact point here and get that to the finish. With these routes that we're building and why it's important, when Onyx now has some turn-by-turn navigation, so you can start a point from your starting route. You can then go onto your phone, hit that turn-by-turn navigation, which we'll go over a little bit later, and it'll actually take these different turns that you chose to make sure that you're following those right roads. If you're using Apple or Google, it's not going to take you to that exact waypoint. It's going to take you to the nearest address. Versus Onyx, it'll actually let you draw this route out and it'll give you turn-by-turn directions as you're going along. So you'll see here, I can even go in and I can change this up a little bit as well. So with my routes, I like to make sure that they're very visible just so I know where I'm going. But you can go through, you can change the style and weight to make it as visible or as not visible as you would like on the map. If you're going through and like I said, I like to make it so make sure I don't lose track of where I'm going. So I make it as thick as possible so that when I'm going back through, I know exactly where it is. All right. So now that we have our starting point, our ending point, we'll want to make sure if I am in a work area, I might want to do a quick grid to make sure that I know where folks are going and I can assign places. Best way I've found to do that is by using our line distance tool. And that is this straight line button here on the top right hand corner, or it'll say line distance if you're on your phone. And again, that's just by going to the center part where it says tools and then hit line distance. So to create these, you'll just do exactly like we did previously, where you're just putting one click, second click, and connecting the dots. So I can create one grid here that we'll label grid one. And the way I have differentiated this for folks that are going out is by changing the colors. So I'll have this labeled grid one, change it to blue. Then we'll set up a second grid. And we'll put that one as red. And we'll hit grid two. You can see there's a few other powerful features when it comes to the line distance tool. So you can set up grids like we just did here, or if you're wanting to get a sense of the elevation or distance, you can use it for that purpose as well. So as I'm drawing it here, I can see exactly how far away something is. And then once I save it, it is going to give me that elevation profile. So I can see where I'm going, how steep it might be. So I can use it for more of a planning tool as well. One important thing to note is not all content is something you need to keep on your map forever. So if you're wanting to delete content, so if you're adding some test points with me, if you're following along, you're like, oh, I don't actually need any of this later on, There's a few different ways you can delete it. My favorite is just by selecting it. Um, and then you'll hit where it says see more and hit delete. That'll get rid of that so that you don't have to look at it later on. One cool thing that Onyx does offer is if you are going through, you're adding a ton of different content to your map and you're wanting to make sure that it is as secure as possible. First thing that I will mention is Onyx doesn't collect your data. We don't go through and view where anybody's waypoints are. That is yours and that is yours alone. We don't want to make sure that we're collecting any of that. We're not looking at it. That is something that is exclusively going to be yours. However, we do have the ability to restore content if it is deleted. We aren't able to see where that content is. The only thing we would be able to see is the waypoint or line name, and then um, when it was deleted. That's all we're able to see on our end. So if you call in, you had a ton of different tracks and a few waypoints that you accidentally deleted, just give us a call, and we'll have our content or our contact information out here a little bit later. If you just give us a call, we're able to get that restored for you, so that you don't have to worry about it. Again, the content is only yours to be viewable, but we are able to restore it for you if you do need. All right. So now we have our grids, we have a route, we have a starting point, we have an ending point. I also want to see what kind of area I am looking at here. So that's going to be our area shape tool. And this will just give me a total acreage. So I can just copy along on these different ones. I can see that as is going to be about 7.5 acres. I like to use this more as a quick view tool rather than something that I put down on the map consistently. You'll see here that it always has a fill color. So that fill is going to always show up if you click on it. So if you're wanting to highlight an area for folks to avoid, this area shape's really good. It's also good to show you what the area is actually on the map. But mostly what I do is I just get it on there, see what the acreage is, and then I close it out. You are able to create a spot. So if I had a spot that I'm wanting folks to avoid, I go through here, I make it as bright as possible so that folks will know don't go in here. All right. So now I want to make sure that I'm getting this whole project out to my team. So to do that, I want to go through and I'm going to create a folder just kind of like we did previously, where we have a test folder here, and I'm going to be adding all of this content. So my favorite way to do that is just by selecting it on the map. So if we go to the My Content, hit on that test folder, hit Add Content, it is going to let me just select it here. And I can get all of this into a place that I can share out with my team. So once I get all of that content added, this is going to be our whole work area. To get that shared out, we have this red share button here. Now, this share button is going to be available both on your phone and on your computer and on your tablet. The way you can share this is it is going to be a link that you can copy into any sort of messaging service. Um, so you can use text messaging, Slack messaging, email, however you like to communicate with your team. That is going to let you share it out in that function. So you'll see here where I have a view only and a contribute option. View only is just that. So if I want to share out a bulk amount of content with my team, but I don't want them to be able to adjust anything on there, I want to make sure I select this view only. That makes sure that it is going to be a static folder that nobody can change. So if I have some pretty set things, so if I have some, different lot lines, or if it's a quick search that I want to set up that, hey, I don't want you to be able to adjust this, I want to select it as view only. If you're wanting to create a folder that allows your entire team to be able to add content to it, so if you're doing kind of a biologist type route where folks are adding in different tracks and different waypoints that they set up their test areas in, you'll want to make sure that you select this contribute. With that contribute function, it is going to let people add content to that folder so that everyone's able to view it on their map as soon as that person gets cell service. So that contribute function eliminates the need to consistently share out links so that you have more of a live map. So with that turned on, if I was to share it out with 5 different people and all of them added a waypoint to that folder, I would then be able to view all 5 of those waypoints without them needing to share out a single link. It does take an initial share link to do that. But once you've shared it, everybody's going to be able to add content to that map. And you can get a good sense of what that might look like here, where I'm able to see everyone that is being shared with, and then I'm also able to see what all of the content that has been shared would be. So that is the way you can adjust that is by going up here, see all members. This is a folder that has been shared with me. So I'm not able to remove the entire folder. So if you are the folder owner, you're able to adjust that. So if I was to go in here, I would be able to manage who has access to that folder. So there is a little bit of safeguards versus who actually created the folder and then who's actually just able to view that folder. All right. Gonna check in here, make sure I'm not missing any questions. All right. So we'll go over a little bit about our parcel boundaries. So when you're zooming in here, you are able to view that whole property. So I'm going to choose, we're going to go over to just our onX maps. So this is just the onX building here in Missoula. You'll see when I click on this, it is going to tell me who that owner is, as well as the tax address and what the county that they are in. So if you're doing search and rescue and you're kind of out in the woods, what's nice about our property data is it is going to tell you which county you're in. So if you're worried about jurisdiction, this is a really quick way to find out. So all you got to do is just click on the map, go down to where it says county, and it'll let you know, as well as whose forest or what forest you're in, or if you're kind of on more of a border, you can see if you're on somebody's private land or not. And if you are, you can see what that private land might be. So again, our property data is going to show the owner, the tax address, the county, as well as the property acreage. So when I'm pulling this up, this is going to be what we refer to as our query card. It is going to tell you all of that, land ownership information. It's also going to be where you can copy coordinates. So if you're trying to share out, if you're out in the woods and you're wanting to share out just some coordinates with somebody who maybe doesn't have onX, this is where you can copy that down. It's also going to tell you what the elevation is so that you can get that to view. All right. So once you've kind of gotten the sense of what the property information is, you might want to do a little bit of searching. So with onX, it is going to kind of filter your search area by where you're zoomed in closest to. So if I'm wanting to do a quick landowner search using OnX, I want to make sure that I'm at least somewhat close to where I expect that person to be. It doesn't have to be exact. It is still going to kind of expand that search if it doesn't find anyone, but it is going to give you a little bit better the closer that you're in. So to find the OnX building, I just searched the ownership information. So you just go in here, make sure you click private land, and then you enter in the landowner information. You can see where it's going to show up a bunch of different points, but it's going to show up at the most accurate first, as well as if you're closest to that property. Using the location search is where if you have a set of coordinates, so if somebody's out and all they had was a GPS and they shared out a set of coordinates with you, you would use this location feature. So you can type that in and pull it up, and it is going to show up as this eye. So it's going to tell you that you search these coordinates and when you zoomed in, what that is going to be. So that's a little bit about our search feature. And now that we have this kind of work area, we're going to go back to that. We might want to view this when don't have any cell service. So I know once I get up here, I'm not going to have any cell service. So if I'm on my computer, I'm doing some pre-planning. I can draw out those offline map boundaries by clicking where it says offline maps and then new offline map. And then you'll see here that everything inside of this red box is what is going to be downloaded. So we have a low, medium, and high resolution option. So if I need a large area and I only want to download one offline map, I would probably want to select that low, medium, or that low resolution. That is not going to be as clear as the regular satellite imagery would be, but you're still able to zoom in to about 1,000 feet and see that satellite view. But mostly what people end up doing is going to be our medium resolution map. You can see where you get about a 30 by 30 area that you can download. Um, Once you've saved that area, if I'm on my computer, it is not actually going to download to my device. So every every map you are going to have to download on the specific device that you're using. So if you are using a computer, a tablet, and your phone, you'll need to download it on that tablet and the phone separately. It will still show you where the boundaries are, and then you just need to click this downward facing arrow to make sure that it's downloaded to that specific device so that you're able to view that offline. You'll see too, if I downloaded this whole area, but I know that I'm going to be working in this area, I can also download a second map inside of it. So if I know that I'm going to mostly be in this specific spot, but I'm going to also be driving outside of it, I might download a medium resolution map and then put a high resolution map inside of that one. Just to make sure that I'm able to zoom in and get this clear satellite imagery in my main work area, but that if I end up going outside of it, I'm not going to just lose my map altogether. All right. I'm going to touch on a couple of last things here with some of our settings, and then we're going to switch over to the phone so we can show you a little bit about the group location sharing. So you'll see here, I do have my waypoint names showing up. This is a setting that you can turn on. So you'll see I just went to where it says My Account and Settings, bottom left side of the screen, then to Settings. If you're on your phone, that's just going to be the three bars on the top left-hand corner of the screen, and then to Settings as well. And then you're just going to scroll down to where it says Show Custom Waypoint Names. Now, when I turn that off, it is not going to tell me anything on there, but if I have it turned on, I'm able to see what I named that waypoint. This is useful for a few different things. Showing starting and ending points, or if you're labeling out different test areas, that is going to let you view that waypoint name so that you can have a good sense of what you're going into. It also, under the settings, is going to be where you can control what coordinate type is going to be showing up. So if you wanted to switch between decimal and degrees, minutes, seconds, this is going to be where you're going to want to do that. Just lets you get a little bit more refined so that you're showing exactly what you want. Last thing I'll talk about is going to be our cluster or waypoint clustering. This is going to be something if you have a couple thousand waypoints and you notice that maybe your map's slowing down a little bit because of that. Um, Enabling that clustering is going to significantly reduce the amount of data that is trying to load at any given moment so that your map's going to speed up pretty consistently. So you'll just see that it's going to show up as these kind of um, black dots with numbers in them. That's just telling you how many waypoints are near that area so that when you're zooming back in, you can see you can still see where those waypoints are, but when you're in a further out view, it's just going to tell you the general area. Again, if you have a few thousand waypoints and you see any sort of slowdown, this is going to be the button to turn on. All right. I'm going to hop over to our phone here. Give me just 1 second. I apologize. I do have to look down a little bit more when we are using the phone. All right. So this is going to be Onyx on the mobile version. So we have a few differences between the web map and our mobile app. Um, when you are going through here, our big feature that we just added is going to be that group location sharing. So we'll just start there. We have one of our actual general manager here is kind enough to let me use his location today. So we'll go ahead and share that with him. To view that group location sharing, you're just going to be where it says go and track and then share location. So once I hit that share location, I can go ahead and select this text message and then just send that. This is going to let you share it with a individual or a group of people. And once we get that going, you'll see here that I can just select him and I can see that he is over by his house at a fishing access in Montana. So you'll see that it'll show up as this kind of dot here. So when he's moving, it'll move with him. And when I'm moving, he will be able to see my location as well. This is a huge new feature. This initial version is only available when you're in cell service. However, in a couple weeks here, we are getting that satellite sharing capability with T-Mobile, so that it's not going to be limited to just where cell service is. This is going to be huge to help you with any sort of team safety, understanding where everybody is, and just making sure that you're getting the quickest response times that you can when you're out there. Now, when you're done wanting to share a location, you can just click where these two little people are and then in the group. So when you're ready to just be done, that's all you need to do. And then again, when you're ready to share a location, it's just through a text message. It'll pull up here and you can just add and remove people as necessary. A few other things that we do have on the mobile app that we do not have on the web map are going to be things like our compass mode. So you'll see here, if I double click this crosshair button, I have this little compass icon. When I click that compass icon, it is going to pull up this hash marked white line, and you'll see that it is going to be pointing exactly where I'm going. So if I start zooming in, I can then use this hash mark line to start getting a rangefinder. So if I am standing somewhere, I need to know how far away um, a building is, how far away a different landmark might be. I just click on this little rangefinder button and I can draw this red line up and down to see that distance. If I have a known distance and I have a area that I need to point to, I can also mark a waypoint. So if I know that that is, about 1,975 yards away, I just hit that add waypoint feature, and that's going to just add that waypoint so I can view it later on as well. Um, that compass mode is very handy when you're talking about team safety, so that folks, when they're out in the field, they never get turned around. They always know the way back out. You'll also see here, besides our group location sharing, this Go and Track is also going to let you record a track so that you can see a cookie crumb trail everywhere that you've been going. So if you're out in the field and you're doing a quick walk around, you can turn this tracking on. That is also able to be shared out with your team so that they can see where you walked that day, so that you can get that to be able to view as well. You can also see this is where you can find those tools I was talking about on the web map. This is all going to be where it says tools on the bottom center part of your screen. This is going to be where you can add waypoints, you can draw area shapes, you can use the line distance tool. But the important one that I like to point out is that mark my location feature. Why mark my location is important is this is going to be the most accurate way to mark a waypoint so that you can go back to it later on. So if you're adding, if you're doing evidence collection, you need to mark out where a spot is. If you're doing any sort of sampling, you need to mark exactly where that is. Use that mark my location button. That is going to mark right where your phone is so that you're not getting any sort of differentiation. It is going to be right where that phone is. You're still able to add it like any other waypoint so that you can add it to folders, you can share it out with other people. But it is just going to be a little bit more accurate than if you're using that add waypoint. I like to mention that the add waypoint is great if you are not standing where you're wanting to go into. But the mark my location is best if you are standing right where you want to mark it. All right. You can also see here, when I go to that offline map, I can download a map directly from it so that it is pulling up, and this is just going to be how long it takes. It takes just a couple of minutes. I've had folks download an entire state in less than 10 minutes so that they're able to view all of it while they're offline. Why you wouldn't want to download an entire state is just going to be kind of how much data is on your phone. So you can kind of manage how much data that is allocated to Onyx by controlling these offline maps. So once that's downloaded, you can also see, if you need to stop it or delete the map. It's just by clicking these three dots towards the right. And that's going to be, if you're wanting to remove a map, that's going to be where you can do that as well. And last thing I'll kind of go over is just our weather feature. So I'm one that I don't like to open up 7 different apps when I'm out in the field. I like to just be able to stay in my onX and see what the weather is going to be, where I'm going, have my turn-by-turn directions. So you can go into this weather, and it's going to give you a hourly forecast as well as a daily, so that I can see, what I might be going into. So if I'm out in the field and I need to know, hey, is the wind going to pick up at this time? It's actually going to tell me in an hourly fashion what the wind direction is and how much and what it's going to be blowing at. All right. So you can go through here and you can see what those different folders are going to be. We're able to turn content on and off. So you'll see that I have quite a bit of my content hidden. If I want to hide content or show content, I can go into where it says where this folder is, and that'll be kind of our all content folder. I can just click those 3 dots and hit hide all. Or if I want to show all of it, I just hit show all. So if you have a waypoint that isn't showing up, or if you're wanting to not have all of your content on there all at once, clicking those 3 dots, clicking that hide all, will hide all of the content. And then if I want to make sure that everything is showing on my map, I click those dots and hit show all. That just makes sure that, if I'm wanting to view everything, I can, and if I'm not wanting to, I can as well. You can also hide and show individual waypoints, but that is going to be how you can do the majority of those. All right, perfect. Well, that is kind of what we have on the mobile version. And last thing I will show you is going to be what our new admin console looks like. So with onX for Business, one of the problems we try to solve is how to get all of your team members onto an account and be able to manage who has access as you're using the maps. So the way we've solved this is by creating an admin console that you can go through, you can add team members, you can remove team members, and then you can also create different administrators that would be able to add and remove people as well. So you'll see here that these are this is going to be where you can view all of those different emails. You're able to sort it. So if you have, 100 to 200 different employees, you can sort who by alphabetical so that you're able to find people. Or you can also search for a specific member. Um, you'll see that these folks are active. So if I wanted to add a team member, so you could just click where it says add member, enter in their email address, select what what app they would need access to, and then you could hit invite. We also have the ability to add all of your add all of your team members by a CSV. So that's just by creating a Google Sheet, making sure you're only adding in the emails and then just downloading it as the CSV. You can click here and you can upload that in there. It just bulk adds those emails. And then again, you can select what license type they would have available and then hit invite. Um, if you're wanting to add somebody, you can go through and you can hit where it says billing. This will let you use a card to add and remove team members. So once you get this pulled up, you just hit that add payment, and that'll let you purchase for multiple new team members. If you're wanting to change people's um, different roles, so if you want, so if you're the account owner, you're able to purchase new team members. You're able to change the different types of roles, and you're able to add and remove licenses. So if I'm the owner, but I want to have somebody else that is able to actually administer this, I can just change them to an admin so that they can go through and be able to log on and be able to add and remove licenses as well. With our licensing, you'll notice that you'd have the ability to activate a hunt membership, a backcountry membership, or an off-road membership. Each license type is going to be a seat. So when you're purchasing, you'll see here that we have these seats used. You're purchasing individual seats to the account. Each license type is going to equate to one seat. So if I was on this team and I needed to have a hunt, backcountry, and off-road, I would use up 3 seats when we're doing that. So just making sure that you're keeping that in mind when you're purchasing. So if folks need access to multiple different apps, they would need to have multiple different seats. Otherwise, you can just add each person and create one actual seat by selecting a license type and inviting that person. You're also able to go in and when you're the owner of the account, you can actually resend the welcome emails so that if somebody is invited but they somehow missed that welcome email, you can resend that to them manually by going in here, clicking edit, and it'll have a resend invite so that everybody is making sure that they're getting in and they're active. When somebody has not clicked on that email, you'll see them pulling up as this pending. So you can have a sense of who's actually gotten in and has been able to log in by seeing their status as active or pending, letting you know just a little bit more about usage. Now, when you are logging into the admin console, we have not released this to everybody yet, so that is something important to note. We are doing a slow release of this. It is going to be out to everybody here soon, but this is just kind of a teaser just so you see what this is and how to get into it. Once it is available, you will be contacted. And then once you're able to log into this admin console, if you do have any questions, this is going to be where we have our email, our phone number, as well as our hours. And you can also see that we have a admin console support help center directly for you guys as well. So once you're in there, you can go through, you can learn a lot more about the admin console, about what seats are, what different licensing types are, so that you're getting the most out of this and that you get everybody up and running as quickly as possible. All right. I'm going to check in here. Did we have any good questions that I can help answer live, Angela?
There were a couple questions about sharing on T-Mobile. And then there was another question about viewing crop data layers and parcel layers at the same time. I believe I answered them both, but
Yeah,
maybe you could go into a little bit more about the T-satellite and sharing capabilities.
right. So with our group location sharing, the um, T satellite is going to be released here, and it's not going to be a part of the initial release. However, it is coming very quickly. So once you have that available, it's not going to really change too much. It's going to just make sure that you're not losing access once it is already shared. Um, so once you have that availability, it's not going to really change anything. You're still going to go through, you're still going to add team members the same way. It's just going to make sure that once you lose that cell service, it is still continuing to go. Um, is still just continuing to use that satellite instead of just the cell service itself. And when we are talking about that group location sharing, there are some ways that you can use other tools as well. So one of those is going to be if you have a Starlink connection. So if you are out in the field, you do have a Starlink on your vehicle. It will use that same internet as well. So if you are out and you're moving along, you lose cell service, but you still have that Starlink, it is going to just continue to share your location. When you do lose that kind of coverage, all that happens is you'll just disappear for a little bit, and once you come back in, it'll just show where you've been recently activated. So you'll just see somebody disappear and then come back in once they have that service back. Um, and then when we're talking about viewing layers at the same time, all of these are going to be able to view, but you will notice that like crop distribution, if I come through here and I see that, a property is showing up, I do have that kind of alfalfa. I can still see when I click on that property, I can still see who the owner is, what their tax address is, and then I'll just scroll down to view a little bit more of the crop data. So it'll tell me, what they're actually growing and then how many acres are allocated to that. So, and then if you did want to view a little bit more, you can hit that visit website. That's going to take you to the USDA website so that you can view that as well. So yeah, well, I think we are all good to go. If you do have any questions, our email is just business.support@onxmaps.com. You can reach out to us anytime. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have for with the app, with the admin console. Any help getting going, we'll just let you know. Um, and then, yeah, if you have any other questions, if you wanted to add any more members, or if you have any questions about purchasing, you can reach out to Onyx for Business at onxmaps.com so that we can help you get that purchased as well. Well, I appreciate everybody joining here today. And yeah, hopefully we'll talk to everybody here soon. All right. Thanks, everybody.